everybody, it's Romania Black, and we are on episode 2 of Bungo Stray Dogs Season 5! Yay! I am so happy to be back watching Bungo Stray Dogs. I'm so excited. It has been, I'm not gonna lie, it's been freaking hot today. It is hot. Where I live, this is the time of year it is like hot. It's like 90 degrees. It's humid and sticky and gross. Like my hair today was just sopping wet, so I just like put it up in these buns and I'm like, I'm done with it. I'm over it. And it's been one of those days and I'm like, you know what I need? I need some Bungo Stray Dogs to make me feel better. And so here we are, right? I'm not helping myself though. I have like a hot beverage. I don't know why. What can we do? It's the madness that we accept with the Bungo Stray Dogs. So I'm really excited. Last episode was a lot. a lot, but that's okay. It's fine. I know I'm going to read the manga later. Hopefully it will expand things, add things to it. It's fine. But there was a lot of things that happened in the last episode. We had Nikolai rescuing Sigma, which I'll talk about him in my comment in just a second. And then we had like a lot of threads came together. We had Kunikita meeting up with Yasano, as well as Ranpo and Fukuzawa meeting up. Atsushi is still with Lucy, as well as Ongo. And Dazai is still with Fyodor. And there's lots of loose threads, lots of characters we don't know where they are, what's happening. The hunting dogs were... Juno's the only one that we saw with the hunting dogs, so we don't know where anybody else is. But lots of things were happening. Poe is with Ranpo. It's wonderful. There's a lot of threads to answer and tie up this season, and we only have so many episodes to do it. So I'm really excited. That bun. This is like the second time I've done this, so who knows what it'll look like. Oh, look at that. It feels a little slightly chaotic, but then so is Bungo Stray Dogs, so we'll just let it go. Oh my god. I look like Winifred off of Hocus Pocus. It makes me sick. So yeah, oh my god, it's just getting worse. Oh my god. Hold on. Okay, I don't know how long for this world this bun is, but it will probably not make it. It's so off kilter. Again, it feels appropriate for Bungo Stray Dogs. But yeah, so there's a lot going on. No clue what's going to happen, but I'm really, really excited about it. The only comment I have is from, and I have to say their handle because it's a handle, but I'm hoping that it's I hope I'm in on the joke. From Big Homo, I hope that that's meant in a good way, says that Sigma in the manga said, so I gave myself a name. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what happened in the manga from season 4. But if you take it, so I give myself a Sigma, so I give myself a name. It's Sigma. And I'm like, that's the joke. And I'm like, oh, that's so good. I love that. So I gave myself a name, and it's just the first letter of that phrase. So I gave myself that's his name. So I was like, oh, that's so cool. So yes, explanations of Sigma, great, loving it, awesome. I'm really, really excited about that. So thank you. Thank you, Big H, for giving us that. I appreciate it. But yeah, I have no clue. That's the thing. No clue what's going to happen. I'm awaiting Akutagawa to show back up, but we all know it's going to be in the most grandiose, over-the-top fashion possible. I'm just ready to hear this damn OP again because this OP is fire. I love it. So much Grand Rodeo. Mwah, knocking it out of the park. So excited. Everybody always asks if I'm going to listen to the lyrics, and I usually wait till the end of the season or end of the core to listen to the lyrics, usually for a series, unless there's some deep analysis we need to do, but I don't think that's the case. I feel like with Jujutsu Kaisen and Bungo Stray Dogs, I should wait till the end of the core just to be safe. Just to be safe, right? So we'll see. We'll see what we get, but hopefully my dogs will lay down and be good and not cause a muck. We'll see. But I'm ready to start, y'all. I hope you all are too. A special shout out over to our philanthropy tier over on Patreon. Thank you all so much for your kindness and your support. I so appreciate it. Thank you to these wonderful individuals who go above and beyond to support me each month. You all are amazing, so wonderful. I'm so excited to be able to do these reactions for you all. Thank you all so much for your contributions and your support. So a special shout out to Edgar, to Dana, to Alex Cornejo, to Kiri, to Be Happy, to Librarian of Lang, to Shimoyama, to Truck, to Nameless Monster, as well as Natalia, Zaharia, as well as Modern Amethyst, as well as Tyrone, Anime Annie, Eric, Kuba Lu Tech, as well as Sunspots, Translucent Men, Anna, and Legatus. You guys are amazing, and I really thank you so much. All of my love. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started, y'all. I'm ready. I hope you all are too. So we're going to find out what Bungo Stray Dogs is going to give us, and we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1. Episode 2, y'all. Let's do this. I'm awaiting Akutagawa to show back up, but we all know it's going to be in the most grandiose, over-the-top fashion. Or Akutagawa will just show up as a deckhand. Hi, insert foot into mouth. I love that. I was like, he's going to show up in the most over-the-top, grandiose fashion, or no, he's just going to pull the hat off and you're going to be like, oh, there he is. Man, we only have 10 episodes this season, right? I think that's the case. I think that's what I was told on Discord, is we only have 10 episodes this season. You can tell. I made a very, very big deal on Discord about not giving any manga information because I want to read the manga after this is over and react it like I did with season 4. Because season 4, around the time of the Sky Casino arc, you could kind of tell with the pacing that it just felt like this seems very fast. And when I went back and read the manga, it wasn't too different, but there was definitely moments of Sigma left out that I wish had been in the anime that added more to his character, right? This episode, the reveals were there, but man, the pacing of this episode, and I don't know if it's because we didn't go back to Dazai and Fyodor sitting there counting numbers back and forth, that was the levity. There was no levity. There was no break. I say there's no levity. There were some humorous moments throughout, but there was no break. It was just run and gun. Boom, boom, boom. And it felt, whereas the last episode felt very fast-paced, like things were happening very quickly, which could very well be the case in the manga, this episode definitely felt like there were chunks left out. We jumped right into things, and it felt like we got from point A to point B. It's like we got from point A to point C, skipping point B, and that's fine. It worked, but I was like, whoa, we're already here? Whoa, this is happening? What about this? What about that? So I'm really hoping that they don't skip the Fukuzawa and Kenichiro, the Kurai or Kumai. We'll talk about him. I hope we're not skipping the Fukuchi and Fukuzawa moments that they hinted at with them with the swords as kids. I hope we don't skip that. I want to go back to that because the moment I love a good flashback, and the moment they gave us that teaser, I'm like, oh, I want to go back to Fukuchi and Fukuzawa. I have theories. And so I want to go back to that, and I'm hoping they don't skip it. But please, God, everybody that's read the manga is like sitting on their hands going, but they, and I know what you're thinking. I know that you want to tell me so bad, but let me be surprised when I get to the manga. I am going to react to the manga. I promise. When this season is over, I'm going to go back and read the manga with you all, and we'll talk about it. We'll have a good old wing ding. It'll be a great time. But this episode definitely felt like there were chunks left out. And we got to conclusions very quickly. We found out who Kamui is. Good. Terrifying. His ability is terrifying. But not infallible. But there's so much more to Fukuchi that I did not give a thought to until this episode. Now it's like, all of it's all making sense now. It's all making sense. So I want to bring my work out to talk about that with you all, but I am very much under the understanding that this episode definitely felt like there were chunks of story left out. They pieced it together to make it go, to get to the end where we'd have the Akutagawa reveal. It was slightly underwhelming a wee bit, and I think that's because, and Bungo, this is not the first time it's happened with Bungo Stray Dogs. It's done this before, where the show like gives you the obvious reveal, and you're just like, okay, we know it's Akutagawa. It has to be. I was just like on the edge. I was like, just take the hat off already. Show us your hat. Show us your hair. But that whole thing about finally the prophecy is here. I'm like, Akutagawa, don't be lame. Get out of here. I want you to be badass and shippable, damn it. And he probably will be. He probably will be, but I'm like, I'm glad he's finally back in the story, and I'm glad that he's there to save Atsushi. The moment Atsushi was like, I don't want to be alone, anyone come save me, I was like, well, you said anyone. And so it has to be our ship, right? But I kind of love that for a lot of reasons because of the parallels where you have Shikoku, you have the parallel of Dazai and Chuya with obviously Akutagawa and Atsushi, but to me, there's a really cool thing, and I want to kind of outline it here, of things I noticed, and I'll do it over here because I want to save this for all the theory stuff going on here. But you find that you have Atsushi, right? Atsushi and Akutagawa. You have them, and they very much are the similarity of where you have Chuya and Dazai, obviously. There's that relationship, but also I feel like in this moment, in this episode, there was a moment where, again, Atsushi related to Dazai in that he didn't want to be alone. And in this case, Akutagawa was like Oda to him. He came to his rescue, right? And he came and saved him in that moment from being alone anymore, right? And kind of vice versa. I feel like Dazai rescued Oda in a sense, just like Oda rescued him. And so I like the relationship that Atsushi and Akutagawa have in this moment of episode 2 of Akutagawa was the one to save him. Now, the question is, has Akutagawa gone 6 months without killing anybody? Where's he been all this time? What's he been doing? Has he been following the hunting dogs and following Fukuchi? We don't know for sure. What's he been up to? I'm just glad he's back because I freaking love Akutagawa. He's like one of my favorite characters in the whole series. I just love his little emo self, and I'm ready for him to come back. I mean, when they started teaming up with Fukuchi, I feel like the OP kind of let on that there was going to be some kind of double agent, some kind of betrayal, because the OP of season 4 was like Akutagawa and Atsushi are going to fight Fukuchi, and then when they were saying, oh, well, he's going to join up with them, I was like, but then why in the OP do we have them fighting him? You know? So it's one of those things like, why would you do that if you're suddenly going to team up with him? I'm like, when is that going to happen? And then we get the reveal. So I guess the OP did spoil a little bit. If you could put 2 and 2 together and be like, well, this doesn't seem right. But I'm very curious what the manga has skipped. I don't want to know, please. I'll find out when we do the manga reaction. I will find out. I'm fully aware. But what's so fascinating is that we start out this episode saying it's actually quite easy to become an excellent detective. Which, the funny part is Atsushi, I like that Atsushi kind of eggs on Ranpo in his ultra deduction. He's like, come on, show us the ability. I'm like, Atsushi, you know it's not an ability. You know it's not. Dazai told you in season 1 that it's not an ability. But it almost feels like Ranpo didn't want to believe what his heart was telling him. He didn't want to believe the deduction because he wanted to believe Fukuzawa. So that's kind of the big thing behind all this. So let's talk about that, shall we? So let's talk about Fukuchi. We're going to put him over here. Fukuchi Ochi. We're going to talk about him over here. And I want to put Ranpo over here. And I think the saddest thing about it is that Ranpo, his ultimate trust is in Fukuzawa. Like Fukuzawa is his dad figure. It's his dad. Whenever he was getting jealous, you know what it felt like? It felt like Ranpo when he was with Fukuchi. It felt like a kid who's suddenly jealous of the guy that his dad's dating because he's like, no, he cares most about me. You're not my stepdad. Like one of those moments. That's exactly what it felt like. And we'll talk about more when we get to that scene because that was absolutely freaking precious before it all went to shit. But yeah, he trusts in Fukuzawa the most. So again, it goes back to that moment where Yasano in season 3, Yasano was like, you know, you really don't have an ability. And Ranpo was like, don't say that because that means that Fukuzawa was wrong. He's like, and Fukuzawa's not wrong. I trust him more than anything. I love him and I trust him. He's not wrong, right? And then Yasano was like, okay, I'll go along with it. But in this moment, Fukuchi proving him wrong proves that Fukuzawa is not the end-all be-all who knows everything like Ranpo wants to believe. He's not, fully in control of how he understands others. And Ranpo wanted to believe that that was the case, but he messed up. In this case, Fukuzawa has this trust. He trusts in Fukuzawa, and so he believes that Fukuzawa is right to trust Fukuchi. And here's the thing. It kind of is going to be a going both ways scenario where I feel like we're setting up the Fukuchi. He grew up and trained with Fukuzawa, right? I want that flashback so bad. I want to see a little kid flashbacks of them playing with swords and stuff. I want to see that. I hope we get it. If we don't, we're going to get in the manga, hopefully, and then we can talk about it there. But he grew up with them, and they cared for one another, right? But there is a big thing about loneliness and finding your own path. And there's this idea that Fukuzawa went his own way with being a hitman, with being with Mori, and then eventually with the agency. And then Fukuchi went his own way as a soldier and supposedly a war hero, and then a celebrity, and then the leader of the hunting dogs, as well as the decay of angels. Right? So he went on a different journey, but there is kind of this idea of this loneliness and this kind of nihilism, which we'll talk about, and then the fact that he's a drunk, that he drinks his problems. Because, yeah, they talk about how he's always drunk. He's always hungover. He's always drinking. He's drinking his problems away. He's not... It's such a crazy thing because Fukuchi's character in this one episode alone got like a dozen times more layered. I was like, oh my gosh, we're getting all of this with his character all at once. So the idea that Fukuzawa, and let me find that toy. There we go. Fukuzawa ended up finding a sense of purpose with Ranpo and developing the agency. Like, his relationship with Ranpo gave him a sense of purpose and accomplishment and a reason to live, right? Which he'd been struggling with as the hitman. And Fukuchi didn't seem to find a Ranpo. Instead, he found war. And it's almost like, he chides Fukuzawa because he's like, well, you didn't go through what I went through. He very much relates to Yasano and Mori and the others being like, I was in this endless war and I know exactly what it's like, and I just kept killing people. Like, he's kind of related to Yasano a little bit. He has this ability. It's almost like, and I'm going to put like a little side note here, it's almost like Yasano, where his ability allows him to like increase the power of his weapon, so he just gets stronger when he puts a weapon in his hand, and he's able to kill more people, right? Which also ties into the fact of, and I'm going to put this down here, of Tachihara. Him, no wonder he let him come into the hunting dogs, because he's like, oh, you losing your brother to war, I know exactly what you feel like. I know what your brother went through. So he finds a connection with him there, right? So I feel like Fukuchi, he, is a little envious that Fukuzawa didn't have to go through those same struggles, even though Fukuzawa went through a lot of struggles on his own. Can't say he didn't, right? He went through his own demons, but Fukuchi seems to think that his were worse. And they gave him seemingly a much darker outlook on life than Fukuzawa ended up with. And again, he didn't have a Ranpo to give him purpose and show him like this other side of existence. So the fascinating thing is that he becomes a war hero and becomes a friggin' celebrity. He becomes a celebrity. He stars in these movies that have been dramatizing his exploits. And there's the cheesy, like, the big, like, buff daddy, like, poster of him shirtless with the sword. Like, he's kind of like an Arnold Schwarzenegger war hero celebrity that all the people want autographs for. So that is insane for a lot of reasons. We'll talk about it when we get back to the episode part with the Army of Mankind. I was like, the moment he said Army of Mankind, I'm like, oh, what a badass name. That's some that straight up Fyodor would be like, yes, let's go with that. Right? So, oh my God. But yeah, the war hero, the celebrity. And the thing of it is that now he has 3 armies he's essentially running. He is essentially running the hunting dogs that are all about societal justice and doing the government dirty jobs that nobody wants to do. I mean, that's a persona of Fukuchi, that he wants to do the jobs that he's been assigned these jobs nobody else wants to do. He's upholding the justice of society. That's one persona of him. But then you have the decay of angels. And the decay of angels, they're all about eliminating ability users and upstanding society. So that's another persona of Fukuchi. The fact that he doesn't like his ability, perhaps. The fact that he feels like his ability is the reason we have this never-ending war, and he wants to get rid of it. And so it makes sense. And the whole decay of angels, it's the idea that, like, anything good in him has been destroyed by war. There's that to look into, too. And then now you have this army of mankind, right? And the idea of it being this united force against terrorism without borders. It's kind of cool because you have hunting dogs, which makes them sound like demons. And then you have angels and you have mankind. So you have demons, angels, mankind. Like the 3 of them put together, which is fascinating. But the fact that he's in control of all of them. And I could definitely see why Fukuchi, if he ran into Fyodor, why he would go on Fyodor's side, because he's like, here's a guy who knows what's up. And Fyodor's like, Fyodor is not a charismatic person in a sense of being socially, like a social butterfly. Fyodor would never be a celebrity, right? He may revel in diva-ishness like Dazai does, but he's not somebody that could like get people to swoon, right? Fyodor, unfortunately, is not doing half-nude posters like Fukuchi is. But Fyodor knows how the game has to be played, and knows that if we're going to get people swayed, we need somebody with good PR. And what better person for PR than a war hero, a celebrity, and somebody that's charming enough to sneak under the radar and fool everybody, being like, oh, well, he's just drunk all the time. It's perfectly fine. And it's like, no, he's actually seriously a threat. And so it all makes sense now that he would be the guy. But I was like, oh my God, I just, right till the very end, I was like, wait a minute, no, this matches up, and then it doesn't, right? But yeah, we need to go through this episode. There's more I want to say, but we need to go through the episode and gather our thoughts organically here. But yeah, it's quite easy to become a detective. And then the question is, I do think Ranpo misjudged. I do, which is rare for Ranpo. I do think that Ranpo misjudged, and he trusted Fukuzawa and was not anticipating that Fukuzawa could be wrong. And in this case, he was. And it's like, because then, yeah, he manages to go to the police stop. This is the first part that seemed like something was missing from the manga, because we instantly we ended the last episode with Ranpo, with Yasano and all the others, and we start this episode with Ranpo getting escorted to a different location, and that's when the one police officer meets up with him. But it felt like when we started the episode, I thought it was a flashback, because I was like, oh, well, why are we going back to this part? But it's not. It was in the present. And it felt like something was missed. It felt like there was a missing element. And so then that's when he sees the one police officer. He's like, Mr. So-called excellent detective, we're getting out of here. Oh, Minoru-kun. I always forget his name. He says, it took you a while. And so he comes and gets him. And Ranpo's just skipping away. He's just like, everything's going to go my way. Like all this. The thing about Ranpo is that he says he was not sure who would come. But he put trust in the situation. That's something that Ranpo does a lot in this episode, is Ranpo starts to put trust in a lot of others, which is character development for him, because back in season 1, Ranpo was kind of doing everything all by himself. He's like, no, I'll solve the case. And he trusted himself and his judgment. And throughout the series, we've seen Ranpo kind of trust more and more in those around him, that they're going to get the job done. And he trusts a lot in this episode, and it just comes back to bite him a wee bit in the end with Fukuchi. But I feel like we just suddenly had this civil war break out with the cops. He's like, I did what you said. I followed my soul. And we have now this battle between the cops who have trusted Ranpo and know that he saved him and saw through the deception, and those that haven't, that don't know Ranpo probably. So there's this civil war that essentially Rampo's okay with. What choice do they have? There's a civil war with the correct and the misguided police. I like that Ranpo says misguided. He doesn't say incorrect. He doesn't say evil. He doesn't say that. He just says they're misguided. The other police, they've fallen for Fyodor and the Decay of Angels trap. And now there's this civil war brewing. And he's like, yeah, I split them into the correct and misguided police. And then he's like, so you knew the number of officers that would trust your righteousness and intellect and throw down their lives for you. And he's like, no, I didn't know that. I didn't know if they'd believe me or not. I just took a gamble. And he's like, you are an idiot. Ranpo is Ranpo by himself gets a little bit dangerous, because Fukuzawa has noted, he's like, don't get cocky. Don't think that you know everything. Don't assume. Don't get reckless. And Ranpo gets a little reckless in this. I'm glad he had the book. I can just picture Pokun being like, don't leave without the book. And again, we don't see Poe in this episode. I feel like there's something cut out with that. We don't see him give the book to Ranpo, which it was a reveal, so maybe that doesn't happen in the manga. But it just felt like we jump from place to place, and it feels like, knowing Bungo Stray Dogs and how it actually is in the manga, it feels like there were little things that were probably cut out for time's sake, but I'm looking forward to seeing them in the manga. When we get to it, and then we get to this damn OP. This OP is amazing. I freaking love it. Love this OP so much, but we're going to get back to it. Yeah, and then we cut to Atsushi, seeing all of them in Lucy's place. Again, I feel like them gathering and going to Lucy's was a moment that just was either cut or shortened from the manga. I'm glad Atsushi he's so tearful when he sees them, because again, he didn't want to be separated from them. Now, he wasn't alone. He was with Lucy and Kyoka and Ongo, but just the idea, Atsushi's so emotional, and he's such a good friend with the agency. The idea that he could lose agents is something that would make him upset. So yeah, I love that he goes after Kunikita, and Rampo's like, nope, you handle it, Kunikita, you hug him. I love when Lucy's like, well, it's good that he's seen everybody. Kyoko, you gonna go hug everybody? And she's like, I'm holding back. I love when she's like, I'm holding back. Kyoko is brilliant. I love the little moment that we got with her in this. It's so cute. And then he's like, you don't have hands. I'm like, Atsushi, are you just now noticing it? Now again, they make the comment here that Yusano's going to heal his hands. And I'm like, why didn't you do that back at the base? Did you not have time? So again, I know I'm going to read the manga, but I'm just telling you all right now, my theories. It feels like there was points left out of the manga, because I'm like, why wouldn't Yusano have healed his hands back at the base before they went to go find Atsushi? Why would she wait until they were there with Atsushi? Unless they were in a rush. But then what about the Ranpo part leading up to this? What? I feel like things are a little jumbled out of order, and I want to see. I feel like they just got everybody together for the sake of telling Atsushi what the plans were, and the manga is going to expand on this in some way, shape, or form, right? That the point of getting the agency back together, because it feels weird that they all get back together at Lucy's, And then immediately they're like, okay, we're going to split up now. And it's like, but you just got back together. So I don't know what the manga is going to do with this scene, but it did feel a little weird. It did feel a little out of place. Because then they decide to split up. That Ranpo's here for us when we were captured by the enemy. He brought out strength in us that we could never access on our own. Which is true. Ranpo's like brought everybody together. He's the glue that's held everything together. And the enemy knew that too, and that's why they decided to split everybody up. Because then they say, well, the incident was caused after everybody split up, so let's split up, gang. It's like, but, I feel like there's more to it. And so Atsushi's like, well, they're not going to get their way anymore, are they? And Ranpo's like, well, it's not over yet. You two, and that's when they decide to split up again. So he's like, you guys go look for Kenji and Tanizaki. I'm glad we didn't forget about those two. Also, the tiny Kunikita Yosano shipper in my heart is like, oh, cool, they're together. Yes, I'm excited. I'm glad that these two are together on a mission. And then Ranpo's like, well, what do you think I'm going to do? I'm going to do the funnest part of the job, which turns out to be the not most fun part of the job. The answer to everything. I'm curious by that title, the answer to everything. I mean, is it trust? Because trust ends up being somewhat of an issue. I like the Daruma doll. The Daruma doll should have been a clue that there was something inside that we couldn't predict. The Daruma doll should have been a clue that there was something amiss that should have been suspect. But I was completely fooled. For a hot second, I forgot about the OP of season 4 and thought that Fukuchi was totally on our side. We were gonna be fine. I do love the hungover bit. Like, Fukuchi's hilarious. The problem is Fukuchi is super charismatic. He's hilarious. He can pull people along by his little finger, and you totally go along with him. But then you find out he's the head of this agency that, like, did these horrific things to the page, and you're like, wait a minute, what? So I'm just floored that he is the leader of the Decay of Angels. I'm floored. So they have this whole counterterrorism organization that they're building up. And I love the hungover bit and I love that the one hunting dog is right there being like, yes, he opened 2 bottles of Tyrant. Tyrant should have been a symbol too, right? That should have been a sign. The idea that he was drinking the booze called Tyrant. That should have been a sign. He's like he's like the dictator of all these groups, right? Should have been a sign. Should have been a hint. And proceeded to go bar hopping. And not for the Tamagazaki that I made. Now that's just like the hangover drink with an egg in it. The fact that he used frog eggs is freaking hilarious. I love it. I love it so much. I love the little frog appearing above his head. So cute. And so they're like, when do you suppose a life ends? When it becomes unable to adapt to change. Which, you know, that is true. There is some truth to that societies have to adapt. Things have to evolve. If there's no evolution, then you can't survive, right? That's part of it. But then the example they give there, like the dinosaurs who were wiped out by the climate changes caused by the meteor impact. Okay, yes, well, the climate changes, sure, but that was from a meteor impact. That's not something that's a drastic change. I mean, and it's a giant natural disaster. You can't exactly instantly evolve from that to save yourselves. So, okay. Whatever. I'm not going to get into the whole why the dinosaurs were wiped out or whatever. But like the world is on the brink of being changed by terrorism. So they said if your hunting dogs hadn't intervened in the Sky Casino incident, then the world may have well ended. That's the thing that's so crazy about this, is that by controlling these organizations, Fukuchi is setting up with Fyodor to have control over everything. Because you have the hunting dogs who are maintaining control in Japan against the agency, against the ability user groups there. You have the Army of Mankind, which could be this entire counterterrorism group that could basically go after ability users without borders, without jurisdiction, preventing them from accessing things, which is dangerous. And then you have the decay of angels, and it's kind of like you're playing both the cops and the robbers. You're controlling and puppeteering everything to go exactly how you want it. So it's no wonder that Fyodor was totally fine with the hunting dogs being involved. I was wondering, I was like, the whole time in season 4, I kept thinking, well, Fyodor seems pretty confident about these hunting dogs, but at some point, what if Tachihara and the other convince them to join the sides of the agency? That ain't gonna happen, because Fyodor knew that the leader of the hunting dogs was his own leader of the Decay of Angels. He knew there was no chance the hunting dogs were gonna get swayed to help the agency while Fukuchi was in charge. Like, it's perfect. It's like you own the chessboard and the pieces, right? So I kept wanting to see Fyodor and Dazai in this episode, but it makes sense why they weren't there, because there was no hint of what was to come. It was like, no, we're not going to give you any hint of what's happening. You're immediately going to just be like, boom, here it is. It's like, oh my God. It just, they own everything. Opulence. And they're like, they'll be free from any baggage. A military police force with the entire planet as its jurisdiction. So yeah, that's terrifying. You basically have the leader of the terrorists also being the leader of the police, and now having access to a worldwide military. That is insanity. That is crazy. And he has a reality-altering device. I mean, how OP do you want it? And they're like, the special weapon is you. You'll command it because you have the charisma and the know-how and the PR that everybody will back you. That's insane. So, that's terrifying. And the thing about it is, I want to know if Fukuzawa truly trusted Fukuchi. I mean, there have been 13 years in between all of that. 13 years. A lot can happen in 13 years. A lot can happen. So I'm like, Fukuzawa, did he really think he could trust him? Or was this set up in some way, shape, or form? Is there some part of it we don't know yet? And then what's Mori's take on this? I was full on shipping Fukuchi and Fukuzawa for a hot second, being like, oh yeah, ship them. Especially with how Fukuchi acts around Ranpo. It just felt like daddy got a new boyfriend and Rampo's like, I don't like him, you know? But I wonder how Mori plays into all of this, right? Because you have, hunting dogs, the Decay of Angels, the Army of Mankind. I'm like, it kind of reminds me a lot of the agency, hunting dogs, and the Port Mafia. So And the thing about it is, whenever he said we were going to track down the Decay of Angels, I was like, so we're going to tell the hunting dogs everything they've been doing now, they need to stop and work with the people they've been hunting? That seems like, I don't feel like Juno would be on board with that. I feel like Juno would fight him on that, but no. And then him saying, we're going after the Decay of Angels, that's all just a front. That's just a front being like, oh yeah, we're going after them, but then nothing happens, right? Then nothing happens. We don't actually go after them because we are them. We don't need to go after them. And the thing of it is, Fukuchi's such a good actor that he doesn't have to explain anything to them. He can make up some BS and they're going to believe him because he's their leader. I mean, the only chance of getting out of it is if Tachihara, if Tachihara sees through it. But who knows what he's going to do now? Who knows? Now, the other thing that felt like a manga like skip was when we were instantly to Standard Mechanical Island. We were on this weird mechanical little island port where everybody gets together and does political things. Like it's a non-jurisdictioned area. It's non-sanctioned. I felt like the manga skipped us getting to there and left out some information about Standard Mechanical Island. So I feel like we're going to get more with that in the series. But, oh my gosh. And so, like, the war has even begun. And at first, everybody is like, they point out all the problems with the Army of Mankind. They're like, oh, they're just going to pad military industry pockets. It's going to be like, we should just protect ourselves. This is not going to be beneficial to us. There's going to be favoritism. Like, they point out all the problems that it would have. And then they're like, here's our new leader. And it's Fukuchi. And everybody's like, oh my God, Fukuchi, the Fukuchi Ochi. Like, I'm so moved that in the same era as The Legend of a Man. Like, the humor in this episode was amazing. I thought this episode was hilarious. And then they're like, the work of the legendary samurai. And it says, what does it say? He Sanrei. What does it say? The samurai. Oh my God. And it's just like his pecs. It's like his breastises are out all over this board. Like, what the fudge? Fukuzawa would look at that poster and cringe. Fukuzawa would be like, why? He'd be like, tasteless. You know? What I love about it is that Fukuzawa would look at that poster Fukuchi and be like, how tasteless. And Mori, like, slowly hides the pornographic spread he's made of him. Right? Like, Mori would take it, like, to the X-rated level and be like, oh, yes, very disgusting, very tasteless. But yeah, the legendary samurai adapted into 3 films. Like, he's like, oh, those films are heavily dramatized. Yeah, they're like the people who are versed in defense secrets, aware that your service is more than mere fairy tales. The elimination of hundreds of thousands of subjects, because his ability lets him control weapons and increase their power, like, what, 100-fold? Yeah, and it shows him, like, destroying all these tanks. He says the prevention of the migrant massacre at the hands of the Emil regime in Africa. Like, he has been traveling the world, spreading his decree and how good he is. And he has 2 swords there. One sword looks regular and one sword has the ability. So that's interesting. But yeah, and then destroying the vampires, like, He's been making a reputation of himself, right? Any one of those could have disrupted the world order. The world owes you more than we can repay. And he's like, then let me just have 3 minutes of your time. It's like a damn telemarketer, right? Damn salesman. I am curious how he got the 3 claws on his face. He has the 3 scratches. I'm curious where they came from. It seems so fitting that Fukuzawa loves cats. And then he has the 3 scratches. I'm like, did Fukuzawa cause those? Is he responsible for them? And then, yeah, they all get his autograph. And he talks about, and the funny thing is, he's such a good manipulator. He's so good at persuasion because he starts out with a joke, right? He's like, oh, well, I'm only here because I'm not hungover anymore and the medication kicked in. Am I right, guys? And they're all like, oh, we could have a beer with him. And then afterwards, he's like, you all are going to die if you don't help me. And they're like, oh my God, yes. Like, it's that kind of manipulation, right? And you would think, the scary thing is, with a character like him, I mean, it's not like we've seen people like him in real life, right? Right? We've not seen political figures like him in real life, right? Yeah, exactly. It's that manipulation. And so, and it's so easy to sway people with that. Being like, he was a movie star. We can believe anything he says because he's relatable. We saw him in the movies. It's genius. It's genius. And then everybody's like, yeah, why am I standing here now? Because humanity will be doomed otherwise. And you can compare him to a lot of political figures. Like, it's not, he's like, some of your plentiful wallets are filled with bombs right now from terrorist plots. He's like, what you'll be doing on the eve of the world's destruction at the hands of the new terrorist organization that is the Decay of Angels. Like, it's so genius because he trash talks the Decay of Angels when he's the leader of them. So you know they're gonna say, yes, let's stop this organization. And he'll be like, don't worry, got it taken care of. And then the thing that could unravel this whole thing, though, is Nikolai and Sigma. Oddly enough, this clown of chaos, Nikolai, could be the undoing of it all because Nikolai was supposed to die. Nikolai was supposed to die and upend all of this, right? That's the funny thing, is that what we don't understand, what is possibly going to uproot this entire situation is that Nikolai and Sigma are alive. That's the thing. And maybe Fyodor is banking on Sigma living, But Nikolai was supposed to go down with the ship. He was supposed to sacrifice himself, and Fyodor chose him because he thought he was going to be a sacrificial lamb and would like revel in it, right? But instead, Nikolai turns out to be a damn yandere and is like, no, I'm going to go after this man I love, and it's like, that's going to throw off everything. So chaos and anarchy has been inserted into the equation, and I don't think that Fukuchi realizes that yet. I don't think that it's realized that Sigma and Nikolai are the threat that they are, right? And, well, Sigma's he's just a man. He's just an ordinary guy that's stuck with this insane person, right? And then everybody instantly comes across it. He's like, I've already given it another name. A spear against the evils of this world. The army of mankind. And that's kind of the thing. It's just like, it's like the archangel Michael. It's like him coming down with a spear, you know, and spearing the ones that aren't righteous. It's like, oh my God. And he's so good at convincing, right? And so then he finds Ranpo. And Rampo's like, I'm the terrorist everyone's talking about. But he's already said that the Decay of Angels is the new person. And so he lets them have 5 minutes. And then he says, well, how are you going to convince me of anything? And he's like, you haven't changed at all, boy. You're almost the same as the first time I met you 13 years ago at the detective agency's founding ceremony. He's like, you got drunk and you peed on the new agency's banner, which is almost like, was he really drunk and peeing out of that? Or was at that point, was he already part of the Decay of Angels and was making a statement? It's the fact that we don't know, and the fact that we can't know what he's really thinking yet, because he's like 3 personas all in one, is just crazy. And he says, Junichiro and I go way back. I trust that man more than anyone. And he must have been a little lonely now that I've found my own path. That's what he said. And the sad thing is, it's kind of tying back to this idea of loneliness. And when you are alone, you sometimes make very bad decisions. And we've seen that throughout the series. Like, we've seen Akutagawa feel alone. Fyodor feels alone. Dazai has felt alone. Like, these characters with power have felt alone. And we've seen that sometimes that leads them to make decisions that are not good. And so it just, Fukuchi didn't have his Chuya. He didn't have his Akutagawa. He didn't have his Atsushi. And so instead he went off alone, kind of like Fyodor, and went down this really dark path. And then, yeah, you see Fukuchi just kind of like, like acknowledging exactly, you know, and Ranpo doesn't realize what all he's meaning, but you can see Fukuchi, the gears turning, being like, yeah. Like, does he feel betrayed by Fukuzawa because he left him? And he said, the president trusts you. Kamui. We have to defeat their leader, Kamui, and receive the page. And he is Kamui. Oh my God. Oh my God. Ah, not good. Not good. Nope. Red flag. He says, to that end, the man who has the world on his side, I need your help. And that's the most dangerous thing. He has the world on his side. He's like, he doesn't even need the page at this point. He doesn't even need the page. He can rewrite everything because he's got the page. He has the world on his side. Who's going to stop him? This ragtag band of whippersnappers? Yes, actually. Apparently so. Apparently a fashionable emo and his were-tiger. That's the only way we can defeat them. I love the plane going by. It should have been a sign. And even the setup and framing of this entire situation, it felt like a Mori Dazai confrontation now that I look back on it, because you have like the windows framing, everything segregated. It felt very reminiscent of the framing of Mori talking with Dazai in Dark Era. Should have been a sign, right, that we were getting something set up. He's like, have you let your self-proclaimed title of excellent detective get to your head? It's almost like Fukuchi is mocking him in this moment, being like, can you really not figure it out? You're supposed to be this excellent detective and you still haven't figured out that it's me? Like, come on. Ah! Yes! And then he's like, I was expecting you to have the rhetoric to sway me at least a little bit. And he's like, are you so certain I won't strike you down on the spot? And he says, no, I'm not certain. I'm just telling you, He's like, I could psychologically manipulate you into cooperating with me, but I don't know if that's true at this point. He just said the president simply said, I trust Fukuchi. But that's the president from then. But he was, okay, so, that's a really good question, though. Was the president with them back at Anne's place? Was he? He wasn't there. Oh, where is he? Where is the president? Where is Fukuzawa? Futon was there, and Yosano and Kunikita were there, but Fukuzawa, he was not there. So where did he go? This whole episode wants you to forget these things. It gives you all this stuff so you forget. Did he go find Natsumi? Did Natsumi give him the claw marks on his face? Because he's the cat? Oh, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, so Fukuzawa's gone. Where did he go? That's part of this. That's part of this mission. Where's the president? Where's he gone off to? We don't know. But Natsumi, where's he at? We don't know either. Oh, give me some mystery show. Give me some mystery for next episode. And then he's like, Fukuzawa found some great men for himself. And at that point, it's like, he's acknowledging Fukuzawa finding these great men. Is he also suggesting that he found some great men too? So now it's these agencies. The funny thing is, we have this three-way battle now between Fukuchi, Mori, and Fukuzawa, but now it makes it seem like Mori is just like, hey, Mori's like the side hustle that's just like, he like comes over for a hookup, and Fukuzawa and Fukuchi are the exes. I thought the exes were Mori and Fukuzawa. No. Fukuchi and Fukuzawa are the exes, and Mori's like the side piece. It's like, you just want to be friends with benefits? Yes! Loving it so much. I also love Atsushi's little deckhand outfit. I want to see official merchandise of Atsushi and Akutagawa and their little deckhand merchandise being like, we're on the SS Anne, ready to go catch some jelly, some Tentacool anytime. I freaking love it. And then, are you prepared for the smuggling? So what were they going to smuggle? And then, again, he doesn't take the ladder. He instantly jumps up. And he's like, that's Fukuchi Ochi, the leader of the hunting dogs, synonymous with world justice. I don't know what to make of him. He's so hard to read because I'm like, either he's this dastardly villain that is like leading Fjordor, leading all of them, and is synonymous with world justice, but also wants to destroy the world at the same time. The fudge. Or he's like a triple agent. What can we do? He has 3 claw marks on his face. Maybe it's a sign. I love that, like, Ranpo, like, just climbs up and Atsushi's like, we should be careful not to offend him. I'm like, oh, honey, it's just hilarious. And I love them just sitting in the corner being like, we're hiding. We don't want to get caught. And Atsushi is, like, just instantly next to him. Absolutely adorable. And Ranpo's like, well, why are we doing this? Like, this is weird. And he's like, well, you're a middle-aged man. You're a lame middle-aged man. I love that. And Fukuchi is kind of laying it out just how desperate the situation is. He's like, the guards on the ship are state police from all over the world. If they see a criminal, they'll shoot on sight. He's basically setting up how dire the situation is in the moment, right? And I love that Atsushi's beside him like, oh my gosh, we're in big trouble, mister. He's like, and don't call me middle-aged man. I love that Fukuchi's like, don't call me middle-aged, and Ranpo's like, then don't call me a boy. He's like, but you are a boy, but you are a middle-aged man. Again, it's like the stepdad vibes, right? And Atsushi's just like, I'm just here for fun. I'm just the pet cat. It's freaking hilarious. He's like, you're just jealous. He's like, it's been 13 years since the boy met Fukuzawa. But that's not even half the time that Fukuzawa and I have known each other. For like over 26 years, basically. Since they were kids. I love that shot of them. I want to see more. I want to see how they know each other from they were kids. I want to know answers. And the fact that they've had white hair this entire time. I want to know. He's upset that he can't surpass me. And Ranpo's like, I don't remember anything about that. And stop calling me boy. And I like that Atsushi acknowledges that he's not really seen this side of Ranpo before. We have from the flashback arc in season 4, but Ranpo's like, I've never seen Ranpo like this before, and it's crazy. But, so who is Kamui, the grand mastermind, as they're leaving the dock? And he's like, this isn't a murder case where it's over as soon as we know who did it. So that should be a sign, right? It's not over yet. We may have found out who the grand mastermind is, but it's not a typical murder case. We still got a long way to go. Like, how did he get hooked up with Fyodor? What's the deal? What's going on? Why do all of these fronts? Why have all these personas? And he's like, are you trying to get me to show you the ultra deduction? And he's like, yes, please. Whenever I work with Ranpo-san, I give him this just in case. And it's like some kind of like sugary drink that he's like, fine, you've bribed me. Don't tell the president. And that's when everything gets set up. We'll know who Kamui is. Again, I felt like this reveal, which is ingenious, right, for all these reasons. But I feel like there's more missing. I feel like there's some stuff missing from the manga, and we're going to find out when we get to it. So we just have to wait. That's the only frustrating part. We just have to wait. But it'll be worth it. It'll be worth it to know. And he's like, who is Kamui? He uses Fyodor and Nikolai as his pawns. That takes a capable and charismatic person. Here's the thing. I wondered about that because I'm like, would it take a capable, yes. Would they have to be charismatic? I feel like Fyodor and Nikolai could be persuaded by a stone cold person. Right? But I guess a charismatic, capable person would have to do it. And then he's like, given they chose the detective agency as the victim of the false charge, they have a connection to the agency. I can't believe I thought for a hot second it was Dazai. I was ready for the betrayal of the millennium. Face crack of the millennium. I was ready for Dazai to become like, I was ready for it to cut over to Dazai and Fyodor and then being like, so I'm the boss, so you're the boss. I was waiting for it to go like full on dark mode. We didn't get that. But they'd have to have a connection, a member of or they may be directly involved. And it says Kamui made extraordinary profits from the series of terrorist attacks. And so, of course, you make profit off something you orchestrate, right? So then he's like, one man fits the description. But it means his name. It means that Ranpo's like, it means Fukuzawa was wrong. Yep. And then the ball drops. He's like, I have no proof, but it makes sense. But what's his motivation? He may have been a little lonely now that I found my own path. So this is your path. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, then there's the problem. And he's like, what can I do? He's already realized that I've realized. Yeah, so at that moment, yep. He's like, I didn't calculate. I'm good at maths, but I miscalculated this one. He's like, I have a few seconds. I have to tell Atsushi and go. And so then he sets out the flare. I like that in these moments he puts the flare, the smoke flare, so that the guys can't immediately shoot Atsushi, so that there's time for them to get away. And so Ranpo's like, I can't stay here. I have no ability. I will die. Atsushi can regenerate with his weird tiger powers, so we're fine there. He's like, but I've got to get out of here. And so Poe, I just imagine Poe was like, take this novel with you, Ranpo, so you can get out if you're in mortal danger. I just imagine that was exactly how he phrased it. And Carl was like, mm-hmm. He's like, I misjudged. I made an error. He's like, Atsushi, I'm sorry. Oh, I hate it. He's like, I messed up. And Atsushi's like, wait, I love that he just blinks. He's like, what? And then he manages to like try to slice him. And that's when he uses the novel. He says, run, Atsushi. You don't stand a chance. Yep. And he's like, why is he using it as an escape route? I like the Atsushi. He's like, Kamui's special ability increases his weapon's ability. Like, what was it? 100-fold? The boys saw through me. During my time as a military infiltrator, they called me the 100-faced man. Oh, yeah. Oh, that should have been it. I'm getting old. Oh my God, that should have been it. The 100-faced man. A man with 100 faces. All the personas. All the organizations. Ah, damn it, it should have made sense. It should have made sense. He's been there the whole time. The whole time. The whole time. Yes. Bungo Stray Dogs, come on. What are you going to do? What are you gonna do? He's like, something like that. I was ready for him to like rip his face off and it'd be a different face underneath. I was ready for that to happen. it's not healthy to be taking on a totally different personality. Oh, and he like cracks the neck. Yep. Though I only need to keep it for another 6 days. He's like, you're synonymous with justice. Weren't you the president's close friend? He's like, a close friend. Yeah, he's my close friend, all right. But Fukuzawa has never been to a war zone. Oh my god, it shows him like killing all the bodies and slicing them all up. That's how our paths diverged. And showing him like killing like all of the men there tied up. But the thing of it is Fukuzawa did kill a bunch of men. He was hired as a hitman. So how could he has to know at least somewhat what you feel, right? There has to be some relation there. He's like, our paths diverged forever. Never mind that. He's like, we're not going to get into that backstory yet. No. But I'm like, Fukuzawa did, again, I feel like Fukuzawa and him were on similar paths. Fukuzawa found his salvation in Ranpo, and Fukuchi did not. He found Fyodor instead, and Fyodor is not like Ranpo at all. Nope. Not at all. And then he's like, the Coast Guard will side with me once we dock. You've got 2 options, to fight or run. And I'm like, Atsushi! He says, I can simplify the circumstances for you. He's like, I have the page. He gives Atsushi the choice. He's like, you can run away and live to fight another day, maybe. Or you can fight and get this page, maybe. But you may die either way, so what are you going to do? And Atsushi, we know, when it comes to fight or flight, typically Atsushi doesn't run. He typically flies right into the face of danger, under the guise that he'll probably regenerate. He's like, you gotta make a decision now. He's like, but if I run, he'll catch me. So yeah, it's like Atsushi's like, do I run and he'll catch me, or do I fight and just get it over with and try to get the book? I'm like, you've put on the face of a warrior. I love that metaphor. He's like 100-faced man. So he's like, now I put on this face of the celebrity, this face of the leader, this face of the drunk, this, and now you're putting on the face of a warrior. And he's like, but is your resolve good enough to maintain it? This man ruined the detective agency. I can't forgive him. And then his leg gets cut off. He's like, the boy told you what my ability is. And he says, one more thing, 100-fold, the power of any weapon he uses. Well, that's problematic, right? That's problematic. That's pretty damn OP at this point, right? Yep. Atsushi's like, this is not good, Cotton. Luckily, he's already starting to regenerate. And he's like, compared to the ordeals of my autobiography, this isn't even a scrape. Oh my god. And he wrote his own autobiography. Not good. And so then, yeah, he's about to kill him. Yep, this is your regenerative ability. It's pretty fast, right? He's like, I'm impressed. Would your head grow back if I cut it off? Oh my god. And then we have the stereotypical fishbowl effect of Bungo Stray Dogs, like you do. But what's interesting here is Atsushi's like, I'm not scared of the man in front of me. I'm not scared of dying. I'm just scared of being alone in this moment, that nobody's here to help me. And the moment he was like, I'll ask for anyone. I'm afraid of being alone. I was always alone in the orphanage. The detective agency members were separated because of the Decay of Angels incident. Yep. And then we see them all. He's like, if Kyoka hadn't been there, I would have fallen apart. But now she's gone. She's like, but now I'm really alone. Somebody fight alongside me. And the moment he said somebody fight alongside me, anybody, I was like, oh, come on. We know what's going to happen. We know where this is going. And then Akutagawa showing up with the damn binoculars. Shut up. I like that he like pulls, he has like the little covet, like the Levi thing on like underneath. And then he makes the comment saying, what does he say there? He said, the impossible prophecy has come true. What impossible prophecy? What nonsense are you spouting? What business is this? What is this, Akutagawa? I'm glad you're back, but what is this? I'm so glad he's back, but how are we going to do this? What? Not like I expected. Not at all. So yeah. I am fully aware that a lot of the manga has probably been chopped out. I am really excited to read the manga when we get to it. It's going to be a fun time. I'm also fully aware I've talked for an hour now about this episode. Was not expecting that. I honestly wasn't. I thought as like fast-paced and rushed as this episode was, there was still a lot to talk about. Fukuchi is a lot more layered than I thought he was going to be going into this. I'm really excited to get more with this character. I'm really excited to hopefully see him in Fukuzawa backstory. I'm now curious where Fukuzawa is. We didn't see Dazai and Fyodor at all this episode, so we didn't see the hunting dogs this episode. So I just, or Mori, or there's so many pieces on the chessboard, and I'm so curious what we're going to do with them. So, yeah. Please no manga spoilers. Trust me, I'm going to read it, and we'll be surprised together. But I hope you enjoyed this reaction discussion. I am very curious to know your thoughts down below. But it's going to be, I know it's going to be hard for y'all not to talk without spoiling, so Godspeed. But in the meantime, I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back next week with episode 3 of Bungo Stray Dogs. Bye!